Gotta turn on my new little light here. Oh, where's my other one? Oh, I'll just leave it here. Welcome to West Coast Goldies. This is the start of a new series, a weekly series, hopefully. I don't know quite what I'm calling this yet. Maybe Life of a Fish Keeper, Life of a Goldfish Keeper, My Fish Keeping Life. Basically, I'd like to record and document my fish keeping activities for a week and post it once a week, the events of the previous week. So my plan is to upload every Monday at 9 a.m. the previous week of fish keeping activities. If this is your first time watching any of my videos, I keep goldfish. I have some guppies and shrimp and snails too. I have a tank I'm hoping to do a pea puffer in, maybe. I am not like an expert. I like fish keeping. It has advanced very quickly. I've started keeping a lot quicker in the last few years. But basically, I like documenting my journey, my struggles, things I learn, and sharing them with other people because hopefully then they don't have to make the same mistakes fish keeping and you can learn something. So far, it seems people like when I document what I'm doing. I've got just over 100,000 followers on TikTok, and so I'm testing out a weekly vlog here of my on YouTube of my fish keeping activities. I'm gonna try to keep these videos pretty chill. So there's gonna be a mix of me just doing maintenance, doing projects, talking about the fish, talking about fish keeping in general. Now, as far as my fish I have now and my projects for the future, like I said, I have goldfish mostly. I have these 640 gallons right here. I also have a 400-gallon pond outside. Um, as we're going into the wintertime, I keep most of my fish outside just because it's less work. I have it all hooked up to a downspout filter on the roof. So I'm in Washington State. So that way the pond fish get a lot of fresh water in the wintertime and I can just kind of leave them alone. But with the start of this new series, I'm not sure which fish I might bring in to breed or do something else with. I'm also interested in the near future, hopefully, focusing in on one specific type of goldfish to breed. Right now, I kind of have a mix. I've got ranchus, I've got, well, mostly ranchus, but I have some Mirandas, a couple fantails, stuff like that. But I want to kind of focus in on one specific type, which means I would need to rehome some I have, and the type I want to breed is kind of rare, so it'll take some work getting that. So at the moment, I'm in a weird coasting area where I'm keeping what I have because I'm not quite ready to get that rare variety yet. So I am starting this series on a Wednesday, but normally in the course of the video, I'll say what day it is and show the events of that day fish keeping. And so then by the time Monday rolls around, it'll be 1 week of events in one video, one vlog-ish type thing. And I can think of no better way to start the series than with some water changes. So the only this tank, that tank, and that tank have goldfish in them right now, and it's about time for a water change. I'll show you what's going on. This bottom tank here is basically a breeding tank. That's why there's no decorations, no substrate, because I was trying to save it for breeding room. As far as I'm aware, this pair is a male and a female. That's Mrs. Tomato. I haven't named this other rancher yet. I got that one from When Goldfish, shout out. It hasn't been, I resealed this one with silicone not too long ago, and it hasn't been set up too long. It's still, I think we're nearing the end of the cycle. We got algae growing. It gets cloudy a lot. It gets really cloudy really fast. I did order a second filter for this tank because it's just a little sponge filter. I want a second one. So I've been changing the water more on this tank though, basically. And so we need to do water change on that one. The tank above it, this is the green carpet algae tank. This has been a work in progress for like a year and a half. I'm trying to grow lush green carpet algae on all the surfaces in this tank. And it's been very hard. I've gotten close a couple times. It's probably time to restart the process. I got to do some cultivate green water And I should probably get a UV filter because that's kind of the next step. I've been changing one thing at a time because I want to keep green carpet algae long term. And so I've been hoping that if I can nail it just right, it'll be easier to keep long term. But that means I've been changing things really slowly over the last year. Uh, and so this one also needs a water change right now. There's a little algae on the glass. And this is like my terracotta pot themed aquarium with black sand. That's Sesame right there. She's a black Tyrantu. Um, I haven't had any fish in this tank for a hot minute. And so I just put Sesame in there a couple weeks ago because she was having like a little fungal infection of some kind on her skin. Oh, she's trying to bite me. She'll try to bite me. She was having some kind of fungus growing on a little bit. It's hard to see her, but she was in the pond. Moved her inside. It's getting better already, but I'm trying to keep this water extra clean for her too till it gets totally better. So all that means it's water change time. All right, so just to show you how I do my water changes, the tanks are right there. If we turn around and walk this way, we have a bathroom right here. And so I hook my water changer up to the sink, and there's also a sliding glass door right here. And so I use my water changer and I put all the water into the grass or the plants. Well, I tried. Okay. So I usually don't have to watch super close with Breadstick and Blubbles. That's the two goldfish in this tank. They know better than to swim up the siphon. Sesame has swam up that siphon, I think 3 times. I don't know what her deal is. She always goes for it. They always avoid it. So I don't worry. I still keep a close eye. But time to roll up my sleeve and clean the glass a little bit. I actually just got this new algae scraper. It's like a long-handled razor blade. I just got it on Amazon. Because this thing, sometimes it's really inconvenient to shove my whole arm in a tank when I want to scrape it. But you know what? I think I still gotta have it shorter. Unscrew it here. That's the only maybe downside of having tanks on a rack like this is just the space to work right here. Shoving my arm in and everything is not the most convenient all the time. Ooh, that's a terrible noise. Hate that. Ooh, why does it sound so bad? It works though. Ooh, why does it sound? Ooh, that's a terrible noise. It's the opposite. What's the opposite of ASMR? Oh, God. It works, but at what cost? I don't like that. I think I prefer my magnet scrubber. Let me get it. See, usually I prefer this one, where this goes on the other side and magnet, that way I can scrub it. But the only downside to this, I find, is when I use it in a tank with substrate, the sand gets caught in here, and then the sand rubs against the glass and scratches it up. So semi-frequently, I have to take this part and wash it in the sink to get all the sand out, and it's a little annoying. All right, well, we're good. See, that's better. No terrible noise, no screeching, no scratching. I always seem to, when I use this scraper, it's works pretty well. But then when I fill back up the tank, I always see more that I miss. And for those that don't know, you never want to run up all the way to the very edge of the tank because you don't want to try to, scrape up that silicone on the edge. So as close as you can without touching the silicone. One time scrubbing over it is not going to do much, but if you scrub your tank every single time and run this all the way to the edge, it'll start to pry up that corner of that silicone, and that's not what you want. You not want that. So I usually leave kind of a lot of space. Because, after all, I'm not afraid of algae. And this is the carpet algae tank. So many fish keepers are afraid of algae. Algae means, they think algae means unhealthy or algae means dirty, but it's not always the case. There's always a point where the algae becomes harmful or too much. But mainly it just impacts how it looks. I'm a big fan of algae usually because the goldfish will eat it and it keeps the water cleaner, eats up those nitrates. And the look generally doesn't bother me. Of course, when it's all brown like this and splotchy, it's not my favorite. But you know, fish are happy, I'm happy. I'm going to do something here that most fish keepers will despise me for. I'm going to grab the sponge and give her a squeeze. Oh, yeah. Now, I know what you're saying. Why wouldn't you just take it out, squeeze it in a bucket, put some tank water, clean it out? And it's not a bad idea. But with the carpet algae tank in particular, part of cultivating that green water can be getting a bunch of gunk, mulm, if you will, into the water column. And so with this tank, I will usually squeeze the sponge and then complete the water change. That can assist in our green water and our carpet algae cultivation. I do aim to pick up all the chunkies, the poop at the bottom and everything. I usually also give it a little mix without disturbing the fish too much. They're used to it though. Breadstick knows what's going to happen. You will also notice I am a big fan of duckweed. It's pretty much in all the tanks I have. And the duckweed, I mean, it cleans the water, because once again, the plant eats up the nitrates. But also the duckweed is a food source for the goldfish. So I am not super regular with my feeding schedule, I would say. I'm not like, I don't binge the goldfish, but as far as when I feed them and how many times a day, usually once or twice a day, but I mainly let the goldfish snack on duckweed a lot. So I will spread duckweed in all the tanks. And I haven't had no negative effects from this, really, except for one. And that is that the tank I get my duckweed from has snails in it. So my shrimp and snail tank, duckweed and snails. And when I move some duckweed over to other tanks, the snails hitch a ride. I really don't want snails in most of my tanks. They're okay in the shrimp tank, but I don't want them in all my goldfish tanks, especially this one, because if I'm trying to grow carpet algae, I don't need no stinking snails ruining my hard work. I try not to let the water get too low when I'm doing a water change, but I get as low as I can without making the fish flop around. Now, if you keep any other type of fish, you're probably screaming at the screen saying, why are you doing such a big water change? Oh my gosh, that's basically 100%. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. You pretty much do huge water changes with goldfish. I mean, other people have different ways of doing it, and those are totally great. I'm a big fan of 100% ish water changes. It has not caused any ill effects that I'm aware of. You know, and if I find out my goldfish don't like it, I'll change it up. But in general, I add my water conditioner. Well, you're about to see. I add my water conditioner, and when I fill it up, I match the temperature that it was before, and I don't have any issues. I could see it being an issue in places that have really bad water quality straight from the tap. But here in Washington State, in the Pacific Northwest, we really have pretty good water. Pretty fortunate. So I take my other end of my water changer and I put on these nice quick release pieces And usually, let me move this so you can see the faucet handle here. Usually I get just the perfect temperature I want by just barely turning on the hot, so I can hear it on, and then the cold all the way. And that's usually just perfect. So, and I find that I don't usually stress about putting the dechlorinator in before starting the water because, like I said, the water's so good here. Chlorine's usually so low that I usually add the dechlorinator once the water's running. Now, normally I use Prime, but I just had this that I got for free from someone, so it works. Why not? Water conditioner's water conditioner. Although Prime is best. Not a sponsor. Now, don't worry about Blubbles over in that corner. She has been doing that a lot, honestly, and I don't know why. She chills in that corner. For a while, she was alone in this tank, and I thought that maybe she was bored. So that's when I gave her Breadstick as a friend, but she still goes and chills in that corner. And, but like, if I come up to the tank, or if I feed them, she swims around, no problem. But like, when it's rest time, she goes and sticks her face in that corner, so. And just for a little background on Breadstick here, in case you didn't know it, she has pretty much permanent swim bladder disorder problems. So if you don't know, goldfish have a little organ that they can fill with air to keep their buoyancy right so that they don't sink to the bottom or float to the top. But if the quality of the fish is not good, then the swim bladder can be deformed or not work right or be gone altogether. Breadstick here has always been a little floaty, so she can't control her swim bladder, like how much it's filled that much, I think. Because like I'll see her go up to the surface, gulp air, burp it out, and her buoyancy will be different after, but she never gets it right. So it's probably just a deformed shape. But so she's always a little floaty. I've tried feeding her different things. I've tried having the temperature of the water a little warmer. I've tried having it a little colder. Peas, veggies, Epsom salt baths. It's pretty much permanent, but it doesn't impact her life so much where she's not having a good fish life. You know, she still eats, she swims around. She is not perpetually at the surface. She's also not sunk to the bottom all the time. So if she was not having a good life, I would uh, probably put her out of her misery. But because she does still eat and swim around and have a meaningful time, a meaningful share in the fish world, as long as she's happy, she can keep living here. So, and she is one of the fish who had the longest. So. I have been in the continued effort of getting carpet algae in this tank. I have tried some other fertilizers before with limited success, I'll say. I have not tried Flourish Advance yet. So I think I've dosed it once. I'm going to dose it again now that I'm doing a water change. This is high in phosphate, and I feel that I've read that that can help cultivate our green colors that we want in the algae. So I've been dosing it. I've been underdosing because I'm not trying to make the water quality poor, but I'm just see. This is a half dose. 1 capful is a half dose for this tank, just enough to see if it makes a difference in the color of the algae. I think the water change for Sesame here can wait another day probably. I'm hoping to get to Mrs. Tomato and the unnamed one in the breeding tank at the bottom today. We'll see. I might finish this one. This one's just finishing up filling. I'll probably finish it and stop and do some other stuff throughout my day. I'm going to be coming back to that one later. So we're actually at 65. That's actually a little colder than I want it. Usually the ambient temperature of the water from the room is between, I'm going to say 68, 70, 71 sometimes, 67 in the winter. So I'm gonna just bump up the hot water just a smidge and we'll adjust. In my opinion, it's really not do or die that the temperature is exactly the same. Usually within 5 degrees of what it was before is okay in my book. Usually after a water change, I'll give the front of the tank a little wipe, get any smudges off. Um, I've used Windex in the past. I know most fish keepers say, don't use Windex, because of the fear of getting it in the aquarium. And I agree to that to a degree. I think if you're clumsy, then sure, don't use Windex by your aquarium. But like, if I hold my rag over here, give it a couple sprays, leave the bottle over there, wipe my tank with Windex, I don't think any of that is getting in the tank. Um, but if you're worried about it, by all means, don't use it. Some people also just use a little vinegar. I'm also a fan of just taking a microfiber cloth and buffing it a little bit. It's always a struggle to not get water on my floor. I carry this to the sink. I always forget my towel across the room. Hook this around my sink, and I can. Good morning. It is Thursday. This is usually what I do first thing in the morning. So I make my coffee and I turn on the shrimp tank light. Usually, they freak out a little bit. They're fine today. I know you're thinking, doesn't the coffee maker disturb the shrimp? And it doesn't seem to. Basically, from what I can tell, the shrimp, they don't move, they don't jump when I'm making coffee, even though it's a little loud. They do freak out when I first turn the light on. So I take mine topped with oat milk, and we're good. Now I'd like to check on the pond fish this morning because it's really, really frosty in the front yard. So I think it's good to check, see how cold they're doing. Yeah, it's cold. Can't quite see. Well, let's see. Here they are. They're moving around more than I thought they would be. Let's see what the temperature is. I check over here on my little heater, 48 Fahrenheit. That is probably the coldest it's been so far this winter. Where's the fish? There's one there. That's Espresso right there. He's doing good. The other white one's doing good. Fluffy's good. Nobody's floating or anything. Fishery Bezos is doing his thing. That's good to see. It's cold. Maybe when it warms up this afternoon, I might clean out the pond a little bit. We'll see. Figure I'll feed some of the goldfish this morning. I've been using the Kenta Goldfish gas release one. You're not supposed to feed this one exclusively, but I actually ran out of all my other goldfish foods, and so I have been using it. Every maybe other day I've been feeding them, and they've been eating duckweed in between. I usually feed them a little heavier. I give them a full scoop because they're growing. Mrs. Tomato is always very, very eager. Once the unnamed one, I gotta name him, but once he figures out I put the food in, then he goes for it. But Mrs. Tomato always notices first. He's just very oblivious. Oh, let's see what he does here now. He still hasn't spotted it. He's trying. He's slurping at nothing. Oh, he got a pellet. No, almost. There he did now. You might notice there's also some guppies in some of the tanks. I really thought I put in, maybe some people won't like this, I put in guppy fry in this tank for Mrs. Tomato to eat because she's so hungry most of the time. But I was surprised she actually didn't eat them when they were really small. So they've continued growing, and now there's just guppies in this tank and the one above it. So, all right, it's Friday. Yesterday ended up being very, very busy. So now I'm gonna clean up in here a little and do a water change for our bottom right tank, Mrs. Tomato and Unnamed. I really need to pick a name. I just need to pick a name. It's gotta be something good though. You might have noticed I haven't really talked about testing my water a whole lot yet. Now that is something I do, but only sometimes. Most of the time, I just rely on what I know my tanks are doing. How clear is the water? What are the fish acting like? Normally, I highly recommend people testing their water with a liquid test kit. But at a certain point, I was testing, I used to test every week all the tanks. It was a lot of work. Specifically the nitrates one, I don't know why. It's so complicated. I mean, I'm sure that's just how you have to do it, but the nitrate test is not quick and easy and simple. And so at a certain point, I know what my nitrates get to after so long with so many fish in each tank. And at a certain point, I just stopped testing, and I know based on one thing or another when to change my water. But one way or another, the fish are healthy and happy. If anybody starts showing any symptoms of something wrong, then I test the water for sure. So I'm gonna let that tank drain. Once it's drained a little bit more, I'll probably squeeze the sponge and siphon off all the poop from the bottom of the glass, and then let it drain the rest of the way for my regular 90% water changes. So I don't think I've talked about yet why I'm starting this YouTube series. And it's because TikTok is pretty much stopping their short form monetization. So before, I was getting a little bit of money, some pennies from my videos all under a minute on TikTok. That's all I've made for the last like 2.5 years is videos under a minute on TikTok. And it's not like it's given me much. It doesn't even cover my water bill every month. Not even close, not even a portion. But, a little something to take the edge off, make the hobby a little easier financially. It's good. But also, I started this not to make money, but I just said, I'm doing all this fish keeping stuff anyways. Whether people are watching it or not, I'm doing it. And so I may as well let people watch along if they enjoy it. And some people have. But with videos under a minute not making any more monetization on TikTok, I figured it was a pretty good time to transition over to YouTube and try that out. TikTok is rolling out monetization for videos over 60 seconds. But if I'm putting in that extra effort to make longer videos, I may as well just switch to YouTube because, it's much more well established. It's proven people can, use YouTube to build an audience and have, a small career out of it. I'm not even looking for a career. I'm doing this one way or another. If my hobby can pay for itself from people just watching and enjoying, that's great. So I'd love to keep this series up once a week. How long should I try it before I give up? Because, at a certain point, the time spent editing and filming is more than just, the regular maintenance I'm going to be doing, taking care of my fish. So at some point, if it's not working, I should probably stop. But at what point? Maybe I should try for 20 weeks. That feels right. 20 weeks, and if people aren't enjoying this. That's 20 episodes. Man, that's a long time. But also, you have to give it a fair shot. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try this 20 episodes, 20 weeks. And if people don't enjoy it, I will stop. Another reason I like making videos is just the pressure to do stuff with my goldfish and to post it. It keeps me motivated a bit, because I would be doing fish keeping stuff one way or another. But I'm motivated to do more with it if I know people are watching. It's not the end all be all. But when there's that pressure to do maintenance, if I don't do maintenance, my tanks will get dirty, or, dingy looking water and people will complain. Better do my water changes. It's good to keep me motivated like that because I'm somebody who changes hobbies every couple years once I get bored. But I don't want to do that this time. I love goldfish keeping. There's a lot more that I still want to accomplish with goldfish, like years and years worth of things that I want to accomplish with goldfish. And so it keeps me tethered to this hobby if people are watching. That pressure's there. Because I could very easily go back to rock climbing. I like rock climbing. I could very easily go back to longboarding. I like longboarding, drawing, anything. I love doing stuff. But it's better if I just stick with one thing, I always try to keep one hobby at a time because then all my hobby money can go to one place. If I have two hobbies, then I'm splitting my hobby money between two things, and that's not as fun. Or more than two, that's crazy. That's crazy. So I like keeping one main hobby for my free time. I want to talk for a second about a big part of my fish keeping philosophy too, is that I really truly support the idea that there is more than one way to keep fish. Goldfish in particular is a really, really good example because some people keep goldfish in a completely plain tank, one filter, and they change the water more frequently. Some people keep goldfish in a tank with small pebbles or sand, more decorations, maybe a big filter. Some people keep goldfish in a totally empty tank, no filter, and they change the water every week. And there are a lot of different styles. And I think what really proves that different styles can work is that the success that people have with these different styles. And so I'm a big believer in maybe, don't knock it till you try it. And there are a lot of different ways to successfully keep and breed goldfish. And sometimes there are things that I personally disagree with, but maybe don't impact quality of life for the goldfish, because I think that's a specific line to cross too. Is like there's a line of, oh, you're abusing the animal versus you're just doing a different fish keeping technique. Because a goldfish in a 5-gallon tank, there's no scenario where that's acceptable long term. If it's a hospital tank, but like even then, a hospital tank, is acceptable maybe for a short period of time, or a surgery tank, right? But in most cases, fish keeping technique is different than, real quality of life for the animal. And so that's why I love watching all sorts of different videos from different channels. Even there's a couple of fish keeping channels. I don't really like them as people, and I don't agree with some of their takes, but they're so successful keeping fish that, of course, what they're doing works for them, so they should keep it up. And what I'm doing works for me. What you're doing hopefully works for you. But the telltale sign if your style is working for you is if you are being successful. Like, are your fish dying a lot? Are they breeding? Are they eating? Are they swimming around a lot? Because if they're not doing those things, you know that something needs to improve with your technique. And I feel like my water change style is a really good example of that, with me doing 90% every time. Just on still? Yeah, okay. 90% water changes because, you know, that can just depend on where you live. If you live somewhere with water where there's nitrates straight from the tap or even ammonia straight from the tap, you're going to have to do water changes way differently. You're going to have to do a little bit at a time, some highly filtered setup straight from your sink. Or, I mean, if you do bucket water changes, you're not going to want to have any big tanks, and you're not going to change a lot at once just because it's too much physical work. You might do a bucket a day to keep up with the waste. And there are a lot of different types of goldfish or types of other fish that are really too delicate to do a large water change with. Um, I my goals as a breeder and a goldfish keeper hobbyist are to make stronger goldfish, to leave behind and give away goldfish that make better genetics for everybody. Because I think that's a problem I see with, you know, big box pet store goldfish is they don't have any pride in the goldfish that they get or breed or sell, however they get them. And so there's lots of weak fish given to hobbyists, and then they take the weak fish and they have a bad experience, leaves a bad taste in their mouth with goldfish just because Petco or PetSmart has garbage goldfish. And so I want to make strong goldfish that breed and make stronger goldfish. And so part of that for me is goldfish that can take a little temperature swing and different little stresses, because I just think about in nature, there are stresses in nature because, you know, stress for goldfish, you'll hear, is terrible. It's terrible on them. And it's true. Stress is not generally good for them, but they're not under no stress in nature. There's other fish swimming around. There's boats going over top, there's storms, there's currents, there's all sorts of things that make a little stress. And so I really don't think that the aquarium has to be this pristine environment where nothing stressful ever happens. Not that I'm going out of my way to bother my goldfish. I mean, you can tell they're not suffering here. They get fresh water, they get a lot of food. But, yeah. Okay, so I'm just about done for the moment. I finished up the water change for them. I added some fresh duckweed to their tank because they seem to eat the most, and it was almost all totally gone. I did a little siphoning in the middle tanks, just some of the poop that's building up a little bit. Not a full water change, just enough to get some of the stuff at the bottom and build it back up. And now I'm just going to top off the two tanks because they just have some evaporation from the plants and everything. So I can fill those up and probably call it for the moment. Maybe this weekend, because today's Friday. Maybe tomorrow or Sunday, I will get to do a little maintenance on the pond. I want to. It's just so cold. I'm kind of procrastinating. They're not eating. It's not like a lot of waste is building up out there, but it's probably a good idea for me to scoop out all the pine needles and everything and maybe clean the filter for them. So hopefully tomorrow or Sunday I can do that. Okay, it's Saturday, and I haven't done much with the fish today. I don't think I've even fed them. New food arrived, JY Aquarium pellets. I like their pellets, pretty good. I've been trying out Kenta Feeds pellets as well. They also were really, really good. I am not like set on one brand as far as food. I don't mind switching it up. I think the goldfish like it. I like feeding a variety. I feel like it makes life more interesting for them, keeps them healthier. They get different ingredients, better ingredients. Papa John's, no. But yeah, for now, I think I ordered another sponge filter for Mrs. Tomato and unnamed guy, because I want to see if a second sponge filter helps keep that tank a bit cleaner. I mean, I know it will, but we're gonna do it because I feed them the heaviest anyways. And then I think I really, this green carpet algae tank has been a work in progress for almost 2 years now. It's been like a year and a half going. I really want to finish this journey. So I think I'm going to take the lights off the top two tanks and put them on that to just absolutely blast it with light 12 hours a day to see if we can get some good green algae growing. So that's the plan for right now. I will say the only thing I liked with the Kenta feed over JY crane pellets is the packaging. I like the screw cap a lot and the cylinder plastic bottle. I find the packaging with the Ziploc top, I always break the Ziploc part before the bag is empty, and then it doesn't reseal again after that. And so knowing that this will never, actually, you know what, maybe it's bad. I'm probably gonna keep my 2 bottles of Kenta and you like refill them with Goldfish food so that I can make sure it stays nice and sealed and fresh. Because this Ziploc just doesn't hold up over the course of how many times I open and close it feeding the fish. So, but I usually give these guys about a half a scoop, and sometimes I'll do that 2 or 3 times a day so they get enough food. And then another half scoop for, yeah, Mrs. Tomato loved that. She went straight for it, gobbled it up. She is pleased with the sacrifice. Blubbles and breadstick get a little bit. And I haven't been feeding Sesame a lot because I want her to eat some of the algae in the tank, and she has. It's looking a lot better. Okay, so the extra light is now on that tank. This is my new sponge filter. This is smaller than I thought it would be, but we're gonna use it. I ordered this one because, well, I thought it was bigger. And it also comes with airline tubing and extra parts, splitters, one-way valve, check valve, all this different stuff. And, you know, I could always use more of those. So I thought, why not? But that's pretty small. I don't know. I'm going to try it. I've never had a sponge filter that tucked in the corner before. I want to see how that works. Any different? You know, it's not much different because it's still a sponge filter, but it might be a little different as far as how the water flows in the tank with the extra bubbles and stuff. So I'm gonna put that on. So we have my air pump. I put it on a piece of foam. We have my massive power strip. We have a small puddle. Okay, it's good to know this sponge filter is bubbling a little too hard. Putting tiny little bubbles on the hardwood back there. Not enough to be super worried about. I do want a cover for this tank, so look out eventually for that. But this is a 8 outlet air pump. The foam is just there to dampen the sound a bit, but I'm not using all 8 outlets. I think I have one spare one, so I can just pop this on, put it in the corner. Now, as far as putting this in, this bottom black cover comes off, nicely opens up. I made this for this rack. That completely opens up and shows us our air pump and everything. I'll give you a better view of it. Now, I believe I know that technically the air pump is supposed to be above all the tanks pumping the air down. But it wasn't exactly practical to do that here. Gotta get the air out of our new sponge. Wow, that makes a lot of annoying glugging noise. Hopefully that chills out. Oh, wow, that's annoying. That is annoying. Ooh, that's loud. That's way too loud. I don't know if you can hear that. So that probably puts something on our agenda for next week. The bubbles are too big. They're hitting the surface. They're making big glugs. That is solved by putting an air stone inside of it. It makes the bubbles more fine. The filter still works pretty much the same, but the bubbles get reduced. The noise gets reduced. Or like a fizz instead, fizzing noise instead of. But for now, all our filters are Good to go. We haven't lost any bubbles. There's always a chance, you know, when your air pump looks like that with all those lines coming out of it, there's always a chance I accidentally terminate one that should have been alive. And so, success. Also, just a little side thing with my little skirt at the bottom. I put in a little fan on this end, see? So that and then there's room behind the rack so that we can get airflow under there. Make sure everything stays cool. And that fan is actually from an old, it was like a cooling fan pad to put under a laptop. And I just ripped it off and plugged it into the wall, put it on a piece of wood, called it a day, and it works delightful. It's a little darker up there, but I think it's worth it if we can get some good green carpet algae over in this tank. That's what you want, breadstick, isn't it? Isn't that what you want? Okay, it's Sunday, last day of the week, and it's the evening time. We're past 6 p.m. right now, and I haven't gotten really to do much of anything with the goldfish today. I've given them a little food, but this is going to be the last bit. Wrap up this week, edit this video tonight, and upload it for Monday morning. But that little sponge filter I put in there is already working really well. I will have to cut it open to put an air stone in it, but I'm gonna investigate my other sponge filter, the moving media one, to see if something's making it work not as well as normal, because that tiny little sponge is doing way better than my moving media filter. And the one in this tank works fine. So I don't know if something's clogged in that one or what. I gotta sort it out sometime this week. Congratulations if you made it to the end of this video. For those that made it to the end, you will get the request to name that goldfish. I need suggestions. Mrs. Tomato is the other one. This other Calico Ranchu, Chinese Ranchu, is unnamed. I like unique names. I like naming my fish after inanimate objects or animals that they're not, or dumb things. Bonus points if the name can be related to another thing I like. I like Kingdom Hearts. I like Mega Man. I like Digimon. That's the good stuff. And Goldfish, obviously. So if you have a name suggestion, drop it in the comments. And another thing I wanted to mention is if you like my videos and my channel, but maybe this series is going to be, these episodes are going to be a little too long for you to fully, stay, what's the word? If these videos are too long for you to stay engaged in, don't forget YouTube has the feature, if you hit the settings, and I believe it's playback speed, you can play the video at 1.5 speed. That way you still get to watch the whole thing, but just quicker, maybe a little more fast paced for you if that's what you like. I do that with a lot of videos that I want to get through quicker, especially when I like watching other fish keepers' content. I'm subscribed to a bunch of them, but there's not enough time for me to catch up on all the stuff they're doing. So I usually watch through all of them at 1.5 speed when I'm at the gym or something, just to be able to see what they're up to. But that's it for this episode 1 of my fish keeping life. No, that sounds dumb. How about goldfish keeping weekly vlogs? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to name this. I have to name it tonight. I still don't know. See you next week, which is tomorrow. But for you, it'll be in a week.